First of all, yeah, we can upload that on. Okay, so I might have pasted it on. Okay, I might have messaged just to the Chaitanya. Okay. Uh, okay. So then what do you recommend? Should we post that on a community group, or should I paste the Google Drive link here? Is that fine? What do you recommend?
Yeah, you can share the link in the chat.
Okay, to everyone. Okay, I'm again pasting the link here. Okay, can you see the link in the chat? I haven't shared. I'll share the screen. Okay, just for a moment, but let me know if you're able to access that drive. Yes. Okay. Thanks for the confirmation. So this drive has three books. One is the official study guide from ISC Square. That is the Cybex one. So that is the one that you should refer, because it's an easy to go language. 21 odd chapters. You can scan through them quite easily. So that is one. Also, there is an official practice guide. So third edition. There is a new version also, but yeah, this is one that you can refer for the practice. There is a domain wise and also the full test available in this. And there is, so I've also uploaded Sean Harris, the 8th edition, not the latest one, but this is something, this book is little, hard at language. If you're looking at something which is very easy, then the first one, official ISC Square, is the one that I would recommend. And yeah, so meanwhile, don't start with books right now. I'll just let you know when to start, and let me also share the screen, and let me know once you see that also. Okay. Okay. Yesterday we discussed about the glimpses of CISSP, what are the different domains, how you can book the exam, and we were about to discuss also the strategy. Maybe that's the first stuff that we should discuss. I've created a slide on strategies and mantras that should work for you. Just a second. Let me place that on. Okay, you can see my screen, right? Okay, waiting for the confirmation. Okay, clear enough. Thanks, Mohammed. So you don't start with the books. The books should be referred once we have completed this course. Once you have gone through the videos, and parallelly you can read the chapters, but don't just go into the books, because that would create a chaos that uh, you know we that would create an chaos, and you might get mixed in a lot of stuff, right? So first, let me explain what are the steps uh, you must follow during the exam. First of all, the video is the the simple recordings that we are doing right now, the live sessions we are having, the pre-recorded videos. That is your first go-to point, right? You should go there and refer those videos. Let us complete that course. That is our first step. The second step is, in our course duration, I'll let you know a lot of mantras and tricks that have actually worked for a lot of students. And once you are in practice of adopting that mantras and tricks, that would surely help you in your final examination. And that's in tested tricks also, and I see works for my students. And it's up to you. You can also deduce new mantras, new tricks from that, or you can see what works for you, then you can adopt that, right? uh, once we are done with this course, once you have start adopting mantra, start adopting some best practices, you can go into read an official the ISC Square guide that I've shared. That is, as I mentioned, is a very easy book, 21 odd chapters that would help you understand a lot of conception and easy go language. That's our third step. uh, Next is giving the test from the books, from the portals, and even uh, from the official app. So I'm not promoting any app, but what I've observed from my students is that you've mentioned that the official ISC Square app that have questions that has worked really well for them. The third edition book that I've shared with you of the Cybex is also very useful, and they can easily analyze what went right, what went wrong in that. Obviously, the Simply Learn NMS practice tests, those five practice tests, you can give the individual domain-wise test that can also be given in that, right? That's our fifth step. Next is a very important step that people often miss, and you need to do self-assessments of what's happening right for you and what's happening wrong for you. You have to understand out of the 8 domains, which are the domains that demands effort from my end, which are the domains that are actually I'm weak at. And uh, usually we see in professional life that we work on 2 3 domains and we are very strong in that. But the problem is that uh, the problem is that you don't go into the weak areas and make sure that your other domains are also strong, right? So that is the fifth step. The next one that we have is very important, again, the scoring part. Some people would say you, hey, once you are getting above 19 each domain, go for the exam. I personally feel that if you're getting 85 above in each domain and also overall, that's a good time to go for your exam. And if you're getting 50 60 odd 50 60 odd percentage in any of the domain, I would say that's your weak area. Keep keep that as a key focus area and make sure that you focus on each domain, right? Okay. And keep exploring. Yeah, CISP doesn't limits you to certain areas. It can give you scenario based questions. It can give you questions that are maybe considered as out of box, but that's why it's a it's a important area to look at. Okay, that's the strategy. Again, I would say don't go into the books again right now. Let us complete the videos. Let us explore mantras. You can also reduce mantras that I was mentioning about. So uh, that's what you can do. Okay. Let me take the queries. Okay, why do we need CISP? That's a unique question. That CISP is a very recognized certification, and it's very you know considered as a crown certification. It may be that it helps you in your daily work or daily routine job, or it may not, but it's for sure one of the recognized certification. Geeta Lakshmi, sorry that I've joined now. The books, okay, I've shared the link. Okay, thanks a lot, Swapnil, for sharing again the link. You can refer this, and it has 3 books, Geeta. One is the official ISC Square study guide, 9th edition. That is the one that you should refer. There is one practice test that you can refer also. There is one also 8th edition Sean Harris. You once you have gone through that side backs and also the practice, I would say then go for that. Kedar, hello. Okay. Please can you share the books, Kedar? I guess the books is considered. Sandeep, please let me know where. Okay, the books is sorted. I could download. Okay, the Kedar, you cannot download the sessions because Simply has moved on to a new portal. Earlier, we used to have a portal where we could download the files, but now it's not the case. Okay. 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 Queries are addressed. Maybe we can jump on to the actual content, keeping the pace at a good start, and we'll try to cover maximum we could. Okay. Let me also list down the Presentation mode. Okay. So yeah, the first domain, security and risk management. There are a lot of learning objectives from that, which are, you by end of session you'll be understanding the importance of information security management. Why it is so important. You'll understand the security policy implementation. What are the, the differences between the policy, the guidelines, the standards, a lot of terminologies. And you know I know there are a lot of freshers here, but don't get scared of these. But we'll go through these terminologies in a way that, that's easy for you to remember. We'll also look at the risk management part, the qualitative, the quantitative risk assessments that we do in this. We look at the personal security. What are the components of personal security? We look at the different crimes and certain laws also associated with that. What are the different kind of crimes are happening? What are the different kind of laws majorly there to rectify that? And we'll also see at the BCP process, right? Business continuity process. So that's our learning objective from this course, from this specific domain. Yeah. Uh, okay. Next is okay. So we'll start with one of the case study and read it out for you. So Kevin Butler is a security administrator in the network firewalls division at Nutri Worldwide INC. He must prepare for the CISP exam. He starts his preparation by reading a historical case of competitor. The competitor company had failed to understand the importance of the information security. The company had planned their business continuity planning without continuous involvement of IT. IT security input was taken without the team playing an active role. The BCP was weak in the areas of IT security. When the headquarters of the competitor's company was actually hit by a tornado, there was a huge information leak as a data protection measure were not well planned at the time of natural disaster. The IT department tried their best to prevent this. The company faced major losses, which led them to file for bankruptcy within a few years. Right. So, in a nutshell, all those who are quite new to security, consider BCP as, business continuity planning. Consider that you have been confronted with an unwanted situation. So, for example, I'm confronted with tornado, for example, and even in that situation, if you want your business to continue operating, that is considered as BCP. And in earlier days, what used to happen, it used to be, BCP planning, the DR plannings there. That used to be BCP is business continuity planning, right? That used to be done over the weekends for 1 days, 2 days, but gone are those days where we used to just go there and try BCP for certain days. Now there are proper planning being done, proper looking at what are the resources that can be, that can be understand and can be explored with that, right? So this is why this is important, is because in this scenario you see that, when the BCP planning was doing, the IT security was not considered well, right? BCP. Okay, business continuity planning. Is someone actually highlighting the content? Please stop doing that. Uh, okay, I guess it's who's that? Mohan, please. Okay, stop doing that because we're doing a very serious topic here. Okay, so BCP, as I mentioned, is business continuity plan, and this is the case study where, the input of IT was not taken. And as a result, when actually the business was hit by a tornado, there was a data leakage happened that led to, a lot of losses, and finally it led to the bankruptcy within a few years. So BCP is important, and just a case study highlighting the importance of BCP and DR. Right. Yeah, full form of BCP, business continuity planning. Organization are now start moving from BCP. The business resiliency is a new concept that happening. terminologies, but the concepts more remains same. Yeah. Let's move on to information security. Information, it's a very generic term. Information could be in any format. It could be a paper based, it could be a digital information. So information security is process of simply protecting your information. And okay, Ishika, don't worry about the slides. You have that as ebooks available. No worries in that. Don't take notes because these are available as ebooks. So don't worry about that. Focus on the concepts because okay, you have a doubt actually. Go on, please. Yeah. Okay. Waiting for the note, Ishika. Yeah. The information. Okay, I'll come to. So what's the case and what trick we can apply here? What's the case, Ishika? Okay, your question is. Uh, okay, your question is what's the case and what trick we can apply. The case is simply, it's just a normal case study that has been presented that the BCP plannings that was done in silos, what it can lead to. So the inputs of IT team is important in that. So when actually the situations comes, those inputs are quite valuable. So it's just a simple case study. You don't have to uh, apply any trick here. It's just that proper BCP planning with inputs from all the associates are required for an effective BCP and DR, right? That's the main concept here. It's just a simple case study. You don't have to cramp any stuff in that. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Uh, Geeta. Okay, we are going into information security. Information security is not only physical security. It's about you have digital information also. So we have a lot of digital information coming up. It not only brings only to the physical security, but it's more about the different informations that we the types of informations we are having. We are applying controls to protect our information, right? And an information can be in any format. Could be a physical format, could be a digital format. So what are the threats you can think of? What are the threats you can think of? And this would tied back us to our mantra one, and start taking notes of at least the mantras and start adopting it, because that would help you in longer run for sure. So information security, I'll say don't cram this stuff. You don't have to remember these five because there are a number of threads. Let's take an example, right? Let me take you to our example. Okay. Okay. So our first mantra is related with real life examples, right? So consider you have monthly sale excels of your company, right? That is an information, right? That's a very useful information for your company. What damages could happen to your sales information? What can you think of if you're having a excel with your monthly sales data? What can be, what different damage could happen to my sales information? Just write it in the comment so that we you'll see a pattern coming up. That's a very easy to relate real life example. Deletion, very good. Manipulation of data, exactly, very good. Right. Exactly. Unavailability, that's very good. You have covered most of the data. Let me take you the subsequent what I want to say in this. Okay, unavailability is correct. So think of normal basis. Someone can actually see my sales data, right? Confidentiality, yeah, more of related here also. CIA is a very important concept. Everything is related to CIA. So all those pressures, you'll see that CIA is something which is has been existence for years, and it is used a lot. And you'll see a lot of concepts relating to CIA. But in normal terminology, what we say that, hey, my sales data can be seen by anyone. So that's a disclosure, right? Someone can actually modify. That's a simple modification. Someone can actually delete it. That is a simple deletion, right? Someone can actually remove the entire excel. That is a destruction, right? Someone can also apply passwords. it could make password protection. It's a disruption, right? Also, it could be hash your information. It's not available to you, so it's unavailability. See how easily we have come to the terms. And if you see the other deck that we have, what is this? This is disclosure, this is destruction, deletion, modification, destruction, right? You don't have to cram stuffs. Even though these five terms you don't have to remember, it's just that it should hit your brain that, hey, if I relate it with real life example, how can I retain stuff easily? That is the easy way. Yeah, right. Availability that we have discussed. Someone deletes all data. Yeah, destruction is that we have discussed. CIA obviously is something that we'll discuss a lot. Everything ties back to CIA again, but yeah, information sharing, unavailability. You see, you have given me the answers here. We have not gone into what is these, but this is something we deduce with real life examples happening around. So your mantra one is simply related with real life examples. Clear enough? Okay, thanks a lot. Let's move on to, we have just looked at different. Okay, let's move on to the technology part, and also the what are the factors that could impact my information security. Let me again go into the presentation mode. Just a second, because okay, your selling data would actually come in, if you're giving information to any unauthorized person, that would be for sure a confidentiality constraints that should happen. You know, like if an unauthorized person is able to access the data, if you're not able to keep your secret as secret, that is tempering your confidentiality. Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah, the data leaks. Yeah, 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 yeah. It would actually impact your confidentiality. Yeah, right. So let's look at the factors that impact the information security. First of all, the technology, you know, platforms and tools used. We have so many platforms that we're not limiting ourselves on premises. We have clouds offerings, we have hybrids offerings. So there are different platforms available now. If we talk about tools, there are so many open source tools. There are so many security tools coming up. You cannot apply controls to all of the platforms and tools existing. Your information is at risk at different platforms and different tools, right? If you buy an open source tool, you're not sure whether they are applying a proper security controls in that or not. So that's one of the area that would impact your information for sure. Network connectivity, it's very easy. If you related with, again, a real life example, if you're sending your data with not a protected medium, that is a challenge. The network is a very important area. We have lot of people sitting on networks observing your data. They can tamper you. Again, they're relating it with CIA. So this is also one of the factor that would impact my information. Level of IT complexity, earlier there used to be a tightly coupled way of system, but especially we see that there is a remote way of working. We see people are operating from different geos at different time zones. So the IT complexity over the years has increased a lot. And so if you apply controls, it cannot be applied at every IT. So we we see that the IT complexity overall has increased. There are different technologies being used. You're not limiting yourself here. You will use mainframes, will use Python, will use Java. No, there is amendments in technologies which has led to the overall increase in complexity, and also led to high number of chances of attacks on my information. Right. New and emerging security tools. There are different tools for different categories. Think of time when we how we were recovering our passwords. Think in that way. We used to mention about, hey, that's my That's my last name, that's my pet name, that's my first school name. That's how we used to do our recovery. And see now how our passwords are managed. There are applications that manage your password, right? Password manager, one password, these are all ways of managing your password. So overall the security tools have increased, and that is a positive stuff. But also the information security brings to that area that you have proper tools in existence. Operational support for security, we call it OPSEC. The way operation teams used to take that as a, as a task, has now considered a lot on security part also, right? So overall technology has improved over the years, but at the same time it has also led us to the increase in my information leakage, and there has to be a better process of maintaining my information, right? Okay. Oh, this is clear. Let me take the question. As you please highlight the things which are important or need to be remembered for the exam. I'll do that. Like for example, canons. Yeah, I'll let you know. Look, exam would, as I mentioned, would not restrict only to certain topics. It's a very vast topic, but I let you know the important terms that you have to remember. Like for example, the canon example, the four canons that you have to remember, right? That would come, sure, no worries. But yeah, this is something that would come, and I let you know that the different canons. But just to be clear that no one predicts what comes in CIS. So take every concepts as a new concepts and try to remember uh, as much as can conceptually, not cramming stuffs. Yeah, canons is something that you would have to remember by heart. But yeah, I'll let you know in short. So yeah, the technology part is clear. Yeah, we can move on to the business plans. The nature of business has also changed, right? The way we were doing uh, banking 10 years ago is totally changed. You had to go to the bank, for n number of operations, for opening an account, for giving any documents. That that shifted to people, the bank associates coming to your home, opening accounts, and has shifted again to you moving on to the entire digital world. All your banking operations are on your laptops, on your digital platforms, phones. So the nature of business has changed, and so as we see the different risk involved around my information has also changed, right? Risk tolerance is simply the risk. We say that the threshold of a company, the risk appetite of the company. So risk tolerance is how much risk a company can afford to take. So that is my risk appetite. If you have a higher risk tolerance, it's better for your company, because you can take higher risk, in short, and still continue to operate. So that's also one of the factor. Industry trends, as I mentioned, we see that it has changed, and it varies based on industries to industries. So for example, if you talk about your healthcare industries, uh, there is a term called PHI, right? So that is your health record, personal health information. That is your specific terms related to health industry, your pharma industry. And there are laws associated. So for example, our HIPAA law, that is more oriented towards my PHI record. Similarly, if you talk about your credit card industry, there is a standard called PCI DSS standard, that is more about my banking area. So our controls and our risk is also dependent upon our industry, right? Merger acquisitions, just think of an example, is that you for example merge two organizations that have a different way of operating. One is considering a lot on your security part, other is still improving. So once you'll do that merger and acquisition, that is a challenging part for you, right? So overall, you should have an existence in your mergers part. If you, there should be a consistency in your companies merging. The security controls, the best practices adopted by one company should also be inherited by my second company that is being acquired. So again, the merger and acquisition that also leads you to the overall improvements in your company, right? Next is outsourcing. If you're giving your work to another company, that has to be also looked carefully. You have to see whether the outsourced company, the company that is looking at, is actually looking into your informations, in looking at whether they have a preferred way of maintaining the security or not, right? This is These are the different parameters that can lead you to the informations and the security parts in that. Clear enough? Let me look at the question. Okay. I didn't get how risk tolerance can impact InfoSec. Could you give an example? Think of risk tolerance. So for example, if you you lose and data, as an example, if you lose and data and still continue to operate, and that doesn't damages your reputation, right? If for example, if you're if you consider the health industry, right? If you lose your data, the PHI data, that that would lead to high penalties, and also the damage that can happen. Now think of a simple vendor that provides services in terms of confectionery. If they lose data, they would still continue to operate. But if think of an industry like pharma, if you lose your PHI data, that is at a very high risk. So the risk tolerance is very low there. But think of simple confectionery data. You're, for example, you're buying pizza. If your data is lost, that won't have that much risk tolerance. That would not impact a lot of your information. But if, for example, in your health data, if you lose it, there is a penalties that you would have. But more than that, there would be a reputation damage that would impact you more, right? Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other queries on this? Okay. Clear. I'll Yeah, every organization will have a different risk tolerance for sure. It depends upon the industry in which they are operating. It depends upon the different areas that can be impacted, right? So every organization has a different appetite, and as I mentioned, the higher the risk tolerance, the better it is for the company. Yeah, there are terminologies associated with that, like, there are concepts that define what is my RPO, what is my RTO. Those kinds of terminologies are actually uh, defined by organizations. So, for example, uh, the RPO, how much data I can afford to lose, that is defined by an organization. So, higher risk tolerance. Consider if you are having higher risk tolerance, that is better for your organization. It means you have a higher risk appetite. If you lose a lot of information and still continue to operate, that is better for your organization. So higher the risk tolerance, the better it is for your the company, right? Okay. Risk tolerance means mitigation of particular issue. No, risk tolerance is not specifically looking at mitigation of issues. It's think of that as the risk appetite. How much risk my company can afford to take, right? What is the max that my company can afford to lose and still continue to operate? That is the one. Accepting the risk is, hey, so for example, if you are working in an hill station, and you know the earthquake are are common factor there, you'll just accept the risk. You cannot do anything about that. The company would accept it, hey, that the earthquake would come, but we still want to work in that organization, right? So, right, risk tolerance is not accepting. Risk acceptance is a way of handling with the risk. So you can either transfer the risk, accept the risk, mitigate the risk. These are more risk handling terminologies. Risk appetite is majorly my my risk appetite of the company. It's more about risk tolerances, risk appetite. I'll give you an example. The RPO that I'm mentioning about is RPO is how much data I can actually afford to lose. If I lose data beyond that, then it would be an issue. Okay, clear, clear. Okay, let's move on. Okay. So yeah, people often get confused with what is information security and what is cyber security. Information security deals with information of any format, right? Cyber security more goes into your digital format. Now we are operating in in different ways, like the home way of working, the distributed way of working. So we have a lot of digital information, right? So cybersecurity is more around that digital kind of information, and it's actually a sub part of information security, right? So cybersecurity is majorly is a subset of information security, right, Natasha? So cybersecurity refers to anything intended to protect enterprises from the attacks, breaches, incidents, and consequences. The main objective is that you know the the breaches that are happening, the attacks that are happening, that doesn't affect my cyber security, right? So the information in my digital format, that is safe. If I show you also, uh, yeah, see, cybersecurity is actually a part of information security. So it's a subset of information security, right? Yeah, the main objective for me is, in terms of cybersecurity, is that we prevent our systems from the breaches, the attacks that are happening, right? And why it is considered an important factor, cybersecurity, is because, as we have mentioned a lot before, is that there has been a lot of technology and advancements. There are different terminologies, different tools, different technologies coming up, different programming languages. So that has actually led to the increase in my cybercrime as well, right? And another reason is that, as I was mentioning, that most of the business is happening online these days. We have moved on uh, to the digital way of operating. So a lot of information is generated digitally, and there has to be a way to protect that data. Presence of crime syndicates are majorly the association. So the way the people are actually collaborating in a way that has also increased my way, the way by which I can attack the data, right? Cyber armies, yeah, that's quite common. There are groups that work together to perform the attacks. Financial fraud, again, we have seen the frauds happening in various ways, specifically in financial formatting. The way the OTPs are being snatched, the way social engineering attacks are being done. This is the reasons why the cybersecurity is quite an important part. Yeah, let's take the question. Is it protection of only information assets? How about, yeah, that's those are more the computer servers. Those are more of a physical physical way of uh, physical controls and physical security that you come in. information security is major about the informations that are being generated. So it could be in digital format, it could be, but the protecting my server assets, computers, that comes in more of a physical security concepts. Zero day is what is zero day is simply the zero day is simply the new vulnerabilities that are come, that don't have a solution right now. So lot of attacks happening, and if you're not having any remedies for that, that are zero day attacks, not related to uh, this terminologies, but yeah, we are considering about information security and cyber security, right? Considering time, let's move on with the concepts, right? So as I was mentioning that the information security and cyber security, lot of confirmations that happens. Information security deals with information regardless of the format. As I mentioned, it could be a paper base, it could be a digital data, it could be your intellectual property as well. Cyber security on the other end is more around the information that is being transported over the network. So more of my digital way of information, right? So that's a comparison on that. And as I mentioned, it's a component of information security, right? Next up, we have certain trends that would come. You don't have to, again, as I mentioned, you don't have to cram those steps. You don't have to just learn it by hand, but just to let you know the recent trends that are happening in my cyber crime statistics simply. So just not going, but just reading one two during the first 6 months of 2018, more than 25 million record were compromised or exposed every day. Over 24K malicious mobile apps are blocked daily. So these are more of the different way of performing, the different statistics associated with that. Example of social engineering, for example, you would see is that there is an attacker who calls you and he says that, hey, I am your boss, just delete these files, right? So he in a way has made you believe that he's your boss, and he has made you perform that action, right? Right. Passive and active in a way. Okay, let's look at the next concepts, because we have to go to our other mantras also. As I mentioned, the canons have to be discussed. But next is our approaches to cyber security. What are the different approaches? And quite a simple way to remember is that we can go either by compliance based, ad hoc based, or risk based, right? Compliance based is more around relying on the regulation. So you're operating in certain industry that has a lot of regulations. So for example, if you're operating in banking, then PCI DSS standard would actually let you follow certain regulations. Similarly, if you're operating in health industry, the HIPAA regulations would make you follow a lot of controls to be there to maintain the cyber security. Ad hoc base is simply, there is no criteria or no rationale for that, but it's simply implementation on an ad hoc basis. And risk based is more around, you identify the risk, you look at what are the different risks are existing in my company, and how I can apply my security controls to address those risks. Ad hoc are general way of uh, operating. So uh, for example, you are operating today, and you wake up in the morning and you see lot of traffic coming on your data. You anticipate there is some issue, right? So you realize, hey, we have to apply certain controls. We have to see why the traffic is so high. Is this a attempt of denial of service attack? So you would apply the controls on ad hoc basis, right? Yeah, you have to follow the regulatory for sure, Girish. It's the regulatory has to be followed because there are regulations that you have to follow. If you're operating in certain industries, you have to maintain that regulation controls that you have to apply for sure for your organizations. Otherwise, penalties are always on the doors. DOS is denial of service attack. Uh, will come on to we'll come on to the explanation later. Yeah. In examination, will they ask scenario on ad hoc? So as I mentioned, they won't say, hey, what is ad hoc cybersecurity? What is ad hoc approach of cybersecurity? They won't ask you. Scenarios may come and may not come. That's why CISP is unique, because you see a simple concept and you realize, hey, these kind of question won't come, but in actual exams you could see that coming up, right? So take every concept as a new concept and start making adopting approaches, remembering stuff. And if you're reading something, consider this as, this would for surely come in exam. Read in that way so that in exam, if it comes, you're able to address that question. Why with no chalet is high traffic? There is a reason. Look, there could be a very high traffic. So for example, you see 1,000 customers coming on your systems, and suddenly you see 10,000 coming up on your system on a specific day. There could be the anticipation that, hey, this is a denial of service attack, right? So very high traffic, unusual to what you receive daily, is the parameter and the rationale for that, right? Okay. Yeah, more of reactive, because you observe certain parameters, but yeah, sometimes it also goes at active approach, because you something has not happened, but still you see this could be a possibility, so you follow ad hoc approach in that way also. Agree. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. uh yeah, the code of ethics is what that was asked before the canons one. Just to let you know that this is something that you have to look very carefully. Threat hunting comes under this, which is completely proactive. Yeah, could be. Yeah, you look at the different threats that could happen to my organization, and it's purely a proactive approach, right? Yeah, the code of ethics. So ISC square, once you're appearing for the exam, you would also see these four canons coming up. So you have to, when you're appearing for CISP, you have to green tick on these fours, and you have to say, I agree for these canons. And so what exactly it is that ISC square expects you to operate in an ethical manner, right? Even after your certification, it is expected from your side that you would adhere to these canons. And any point, if you see someone not following these canons, you would raise issues in that too, right? It's not that you are just completely following, but also if someone else you see are not following these canons, you would raise an alarm and let ISC square notify, hey, this person is not operating properly in my in the recommended way of ISC square cannons, right? So the important stuff for you on this slides are these four cannons, that too in order, right? So this will lead us to our next mantra, but let's read it out. Is that the first canon is protect society, the common goods, necessary public trust and confidence and infrastructure. Second is act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. You have to remember these in order. Provide diligent and competent service to principals and advance and protect the profession. So these four canons has to be, remembered by order. You may not remember all these by word, but yeah, just the starting is also required for. So for that leads us to our second mantra. Let me focus on that also. Okay. Okay. So our next trick is make mnemonics, short stories to remember the multiple concepts. So for example, I remember the canons through the simple line that in society to act honorably, you must provide services in advance. So what it is? So it's more about, the my starting is more around the society stuff, right? The last, if I see, is provide services in advance. You must provide services in advance. So uh, these are mnemonics that you can consider, or you can also think of papa as a mnemonic, that there is protect, act, provide, and advance. So if I go back to the four canons that are mentioned, papa is protect, act, provide, advance. So at least the starting is quite clear to me, that hey, uh, can we have this mantra, that's okay, that's something that is very confidential to me, but I'm not sure if I can share this, because this might this might retaliate with Simply Learn policies. But yeah, you can anytime listen to the recording sessions that could work, and you can create your own mantras, right? Yeah, that's you'll see a lot of lot of interesting stuff coming up, and that's something which would be easy to remember. So like papa and making mnemonics that are easy to remember: protect, act, provide, advance. So by this way, if there are stuffs that you have to remember, start making short stories in your mind, so that you don't have to cram stuff. It comes to your head quite easily, right? So that's code of ethics. And just to let you know that there were a lot of questions coming up that these canons are not quite descriptive. They are at higher level. So what ISC Square actually did, they went on to the canon details. So recently, in 1-2 years back, they went on what kind of information we get. There is a question coming up. You will see will what kind of question you would have. So you could have a scenario where you see person doing a fraud. What canon is he violating, and what's your job? If you see a person leaking information, what would you do? You would let him do that? Would you contact ISC Square? So these kinds of questions actually come. And yeah, there is one question coming up. I'll let you know the question part in that. So yeah, going on to what I was mentioning about, what was the first mantra, the related with real life examples. If you relate it with real life examples, that is an easy approach. So yeah, coming back to the details of canons. So there were queries around, hey, we are having the canons at a very top level. We want more descriptions around that. So ISC Square actually went on to defining the details around that canons, right? Like it discourages unsafe practices. It observes what are the agreements that are happening. It avoids the conflicts of interest in the profession. It makes sure that you take care to ensure the reputations of others. So you don't have to again go into the details of these, but yeah, you should you should have uh, you should have ways of relating with what can actually come in this, right? So yeah, these are the canons, and these are the mantras that should be on your tips. We also have the details around, the code of ethics. What is an ethic? What is uh what is a principle behind that? Maybe that's the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So ethics, if we talk about in our daily routine life, what are those? What are the simple principles and values that is expected from an individual, right? If you see a company not following any, if for example, if there is a data leak in your uh, in your company, in your third party company you're taking services with, you're not meant to disclose it individually. You have to give certain time for that, for the company to understand, is there actually a data leak? So these are the certain expectations from you in terms of ethics, right? And it gives you, what the ethics would let you know is that it guides an organization decisions. Sometimes companies, they think more from an ethics way, that what is the right way of handling a situation. So in that situation, ethics is an important area. And you realize that, hey, this is our moral responsibilities of the company. We cannot just work on a selfish basis. It's more around the expectations from your side, right? So that's why the ethics are quite an important part, and how it can help your organization is also an important area. Like, it helps the customer understand that, hey, the company is actually focusing on the integrity, right? It lets you define the terms of ethical standards of behavior of work. Sometimes you are unsure of what is my decision, so it helps you know. And obviously there are situations where you're not sure of what decision should be made. This would guide you in that principle as well, right? There was a question of what kind of question we have. So I guess we have a knowledge check up. Yeah. So let's give a try on this, and I'll this would lead us, can ethics be extended to a non-employee, not a non-employee? So for example, if you have a contractors, that can be applied. But for example, if someone is moving out of your office, just a stranger person, you cannot expect ethics from that person, right? It's more around the associations with your companies, the tied ups with other companies, the services you're taking, the third parties you're associated with. It's more around expectations from that. And the canons that I'm mentioning, ISC square doesn't, it doesn't applies to everyone. It's actually applies to all the members of ISC square, right? Okay, let's read this question. ISC square member are obligated to follow the ethics compliant procedure upon observing any action by an ISC square member that breach the code. Failure to do so may be considered a breach of code pursuant to which canon. Lot of answers on B. Let me see that. Any other options that you can think of? Think of what is happening. What is happening? So a certain member is actually breaching the code of ethics. Okay, B, C, D, we have all the options. So we have answers for B, C, D, B, C. Okay, before looking into the answer, so we have D, B, C, D, lot of answers. Let's go to our next mantra, and you'll see the importance of this, right? So what are four canons we have, right? These are the four canons. And the question is, what exactly the question was? The question was that a member who breached the code of ethics. So let's look at our next mantra. And believe me, this is one of the finest mantra. Is you don't have to look for the right answers. You have to also look for what are my wrong answers, and I would eliminate that wrong answers. Right. So if see you have four options, you eliminate two options, your probability of correcting the answer has shifted from 50 percentage, right? Right. So 25 to 50. So start adopting these mantras. Is that eliminate the wrong options, right? Try to eliminate two options. There are questions where you are very clear. You don't have to go into a lot of this approach that I'll eliminate the two questions. Are these answers in the class materials? Yes, there are. These are the answers that are also available in PPTs that we have. But yeah, moving on to our next mantra, as was mentioning, eliminate the wrong options. So let's try to adopt this. So you understand the crux of the problem? Someone is breaching the code of ethics. So why A is not, right? Because you're not protecting society or infrastructure. Let me switch to the question again for your ease. Just for a second. To follow code of ethics, the crux is simply someone is breaching the code, right? Yeah. It's right. So D, yeah, A is not because it's not about society, right? It's not dealing with infrastructure. Also, option C won't be there because it has nothing to do with my services, right? Nothing to do with services. So C, we have eliminated option A and option C, right? So we are left with B and D, and I guess that was that was the maximum answers that we got, right? So the answer is actually D. So the answer is D because the main objective is protecting the profession. And in profession, there is a detailed explanation given that if someone observes any action that is not as per the ISC square, there is if they observe the breach of code, they must highlight it there, right? So it's actually canon 4 that you have to advance and protect the profession, right? It may look that B is right, but if you go to the detailed explanation, it's more that it's more about that if you see an action that is not as per the ISC member square, if you see the breach of the code, you must highlight it. Maybe that's the explanation that we have also there. Sorry, not from the beginning. Yeah. So if you see the explanation, ISC square member are obligated to follow the ethical compliant procedure upon observing an action by an ISC square member that breached the code. So this has to be tied to more of canon 4. So the main thing that I want to highlight is eliminate two options. This would help you in lot of ways, lot of areas, and you'll over the time you'll see that you'll be in a practice that the questions, even if you're not clear, you eliminate the options and you're left with two maximum opportunities. I would say you would correct the answers instead of marking randomly out of four. So but yeah, if you're clear with question, if you're clear with your answer in your head, just go and mark it, but still protect these mantras with you. Clear enough? Clear with the approaches, the mantras that we are highlighting, right? Okay, so I guess let's take a break as well. Let's take a let's take a break as well. I guess we are 10:07. Uh, okay, let's take that break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Good with that. Meanwhile, I guess the poll has to be shared. Uh, Okay, let me launch the poll as well. Let